On today's show, we got 8 games in the association. The top of the East squaring off with the Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks. A massive game. We'll talk about that, and we'll break down all the rest of the games in our favorite segment every week.
Count it up.
We'll talk about that and explain why the Suns are not being looked at as one of the best teams in NBA history and a title favorite. We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. And thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On NBA is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can subscribe to the show, see everything else we have to offer for you. We even have a playlist called Locked On NBA Everywhere that I update that's down there somewhere if you're on this page. And I put the best videos from across the NBA channel. Some from Locked On Mavs, which is the channel that I run. Some from Locked On Bulls, which is the channel that Big Dave runs. Big Dave joining me, as always, on a Thursday. Big Dave from Locked On Bulls. What you got for me, Big Dave?
Hello, Nicholas. How are you? How's life?
Doing well.
We've been discussing root juice and talking about things like that. So yeah, discussing root beer as not juice.
That was what our pregame meeting was about. It was about root juice. Somebody at Whole Foods thought that you asked for root beer and thought it was root juice. I said, hey, at Whole Foods, anything goes in that sense. All right, 8 games in the association. The first one, the Miami Heat go out a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Milwaukee Bucks. Miami was number 1 in the East. Milwaukee was number 4 in the East going into this game. And the Bucks just kind of turned it around at that point. Miami had made 21 threes in the game. It just seemed like they were dominating at that point. It looked like they were going to coast to a lead in the fourth quarter. And then in Milwaukee, the Bucks just seemed to take over. And honestly, there's a couple reasons why, but a couple of things that came down to 4 minutes and 30 seconds left. Miami got forced into a shot clock violation. I felt like that was the turning point of the game. Jrue Holiday turns around at the other end and hits a jumper. Miami calls a timeout. Then Milwaukee cuts the lead to 2 with a minute left. Bam hits a jumper on the other end. Giannis misses the rim with a layup on the other end after that one. And then Middleton hits a dagger 3 to give them a 1-point disadvantage at that point. And then Miami with 10 seconds left. All they got to do is inbound the ball. Just inbound the ball. They have to call a timeout, which is always a bad sign if you can't inbound the ball, at least in my opinion. They call the timeout. And then in the inbound, Giannis forces a jump ball with Jimmy Butler, like an all-time worst-case scenario in this situation for Miami. And then Holiday, and then they force a jump ball. Giannis gets the jump ball. They score, and then Milwaukee ends up getting this win. Wow. 2 of the top East and the powers in the top of the East. Which of these teams do you think is better? Did we learn this after this game that Milwaukee is still better than Miami?
I think that was my thought going in, and that's still my thought coming out. And yeah, like until maybe I'm old school like that. You have to dethrone the champs, to tell everybody that you're number 1. So you have to beat the champs. That's just the case it has to be. And look at how the Bucks did it, though. They did it in a very unconventional way because they, like you said, they were not playing well. Their best player, Giannis, even though he had 28, 17, and 5, which is wild to say that's an off game for him. But, 9 of 20 shooting, you know what I'm saying? Like it was a really tough game. They played really solidly against him, and he was just off. And I love the way that the Heat were shooting the basketball against that team. But what it came down to, man, is I'm telling you, the Achilles heel of that Heat team is that the defense of the other team, the perimeter defense that can be provided on those guards. If you can lock up those guards and play defense on them like Middleton was, like Jrue Holiday was, you have a really good chance of winning. Even though they're shooting their threes and scoring, when it was going on down the stretch, that defense, man, is what took over.
Jrue Holiday took Jimmy Butler out of this game at the end. Jimmy Butler played 6.5 minutes in the fourth quarter. He took 1 shot.
One
shot. You got 4 shots from Gabe Vincent, 4 shots from Bam Adebayo, 5 shots from Tyler Hero. He actually hit 3 of those. But you'll take that if you're Milwaukee. You'll say, hey, go ahead, Tyler Hero, try to beat us. We'd rather have that than Jimmy Butler beat us, because we've seen what Jimmy Butler can do in the past. 2 years ago, they beat him in the playoffs. And they would rather have that. They had a couple of big mistakes from Miami down the stretch too. Tyler Hero, he made 3 of his shots in the fourth quarter. He also had 3 turnovers, and a couple of them were really, really bad. That really forced him into a bad situation. Bam Adebayo had 4 points and 5 boards in the fourth quarter, but he also fouled 4 times, and that's just Giannis, man. That's just Giannis being Giannis and scoring 14 points of his own in the fourth quarter. It came up to that. Like Giannis, you mentioned, didn't have a great game. He only took 4 shots in the first half. took 4 shots in the first half, and he was positive, and the rest of his team seemed to be negative. It felt like anytime Giannis would go into this game, he would be great, and then the Miami bench would come in, and Giannis would go out of the game, and then Miami would build up a lead again. It just felt like they were going back and forth with that. Milwaukee, I felt like their players on offense were doing a little bit too much stuff out of their skills. Like, I don't need Bobby Portis taking 6 threes. I don't need him taking turnaround jumpers. Like, he'll make every once in a while, but I don't need Bobby Portis taking turnaround jumpers. I don't need, Wes Matthews trying for layups and driving and things like that. Like, we just don't need that. I've seen that enough in my life covering the Maps.
Oh man, that's tough.
But this was like you said. This was, a team can control this Miami team if you can control the perimeter. And between Giannis and Drew Holiday, Middleton, and then they throw like Wes Matthews or somebody else out there, you can do that against this team.
Yeah, man, they'll struggle against stuff like that. And first of all, Bobby Portis is a really solid 3-point shooter. Now I can't give you the disrespect of a man, Bobby Portis.
I mean, he took a couple contested threes, and I'm like, all right. I mean,
okay, fair enough. He can't do that.
And then it's just it's the turnaround jumpers for me that are like, okay, you can take a wide open jumper, Bobs, but I don't.
Yeah, notice I said nothing about the turnaround jumpers. I was just talking about the 3-pointers. You're absolutely right on that. But yeah, that defense is what's key. And Jimmy Butler and what they did to him, because he finished with 6 points. 2 of 14 shooting is what Jimmy Butler went down with right there. That's called clamping. That's called locking down right there, what they did to him. And what really was surprising, like you mentioned, that inbounds play, was I thought that foul was going to be called. I'm so used to Jimmy Butler getting those calls.
Yeah.
He really gets those calls. He really draws the fouls like really seriously. And the fact he didn't get that call against Giannis, it was really surprising. And then they get the ball, they go down, and you watch Drew Holiday tell, Vincent to get up out of here, with the forearm shiver. And then he scores the bucket. So that was like champs advantage, I guess, when it comes to that and not getting those calls. And
Giannis getting the advantage on that instead of Jimmy Butler, right? He's now getting the benefit of the doubt. And it just felt like Giannis was a difference maker. I mean, obviously we know he's a difference maker, MVP, all that, but it just felt like when Giannis was in the game, the Heat didn't really have a good enough response. Now, Heat were without Kyle Lowry. Bucks are still without Brook Lopez. I kind of think that evens out for both teams at this point.
Oh, completely agree, man. Miami's been hurt pretty much all season, but they've just gotten it together, and Victor Oladipo should be back soon too, so they're going to be even more formidable. But Bucks are still the Bucks, man. Miami
is still number 1 in the NBA. They're only a game and a half up from some team in Chicago, and then you have the Bucks 3 games back from number 1. They're 4, so it's still anybody's game in that top 4, and even stretched out to the Celtics and Cavs that are only 4.5 back. I mean, that's not ridiculous that they could come up for that number 1 seed. So that's the top of the East, and then another team in the top of the East, you have the Philadelphia 76ers getting a win against the New York Knicks. Another one. How many times do they get to play the New York Knicks? The Knicks are just absolutely reeling. I don't know if you saw Alex Wolf, our Locked On Knicks host. His Locked On Now is just, it's just him sighing deeply for almost the entire time. Just like, here we are again. Yep. The Knicks have lost 16 of their last 19 games.
I don't think that's good, Nick.
No, I would say that's not. Wasn't this team 4th in the East last year? It's bad. But looking over at the Sixers side, Sixers get to win 123-108. Another big win for them. Now with Harden, they're 3-0. They've had 31-point win against Minnesota, a 16-point win against the Knicks, and a 15-point win against the Knicks.
Wow.
James Harden seems to be making a difference. The Knicks also, they had a 15-point lead in the first half, and they just completely blew it in the third quarter. It was Maxey and Joel Embiid that took over. Joel Embiid leading the NBA in scoring right now. Do you know the last player in the Eastern Conference this is an early. The last player in the Eastern Conference to lead the NBA in scoring.
Okay. The last player in the Eastern Conference to lead the NBA in scoring. It better not be LeBron James.
It was not LeBron James, no.
Okay, I was going to be upset. Oh,
I think LeBron was in the East last time this happened, though.
Kevin Durant?
It was not Kevin Durant.
All right.
Here, this is taking Joakim. Carmelo Anthony with the Knicks in 2012, 2013 was the
Wow.
last time a player in the East. Right now, Embiid is leading the way at 29.8 points. Giannis is number 2 with 29.3, and then LeBron is 28.9. So Embiid is almost 1 point a game higher than LeBron right now, and I think he's gonna keep that. I don't think LeBron's gonna catch him unless he goes on a heater right now. So Joel Embiid leading the league, him and Harden. Where do you think these two guys land in the top of the East right now? Because they're only 2 games back from number 1.
Yeah, man. It looks like they're going to finish probably in that top 2. You know what I mean? It just feels like that way, for that team. And also what's really impressed me about that team is the emergence of Maxey. You know what I'm saying? Just how much he's really fit into place and he knows his role now. And James Harden has done a great job at giving him confidence. Because I remember that game where Harden was just grilling him and coaching him. He ended up with 42 points. Like he was having a heck of a game, man. But he's been on cloud 9 since James Harden has been here. He's really unlocked something for him. And he's been able to see certain things a little differently. So they now have a nice 3. It's not just the 2 there anymore. It's a nice 3. And then you throw Harris in there with it. That team is serious.
Maxey being the 3rd, and then Tobias Harris being the 4th is like a pretty good hierarchy for your offense and for this team. They're going places, and we'll be following them for all the rest of the year. Coming up, we got a game we play every single week. We're gonna count up the most fun things in the NBA. Are the Utah Jazz more likely to move up in the standings, move down in the standings? Is the Sacramento Kings season completely over already at this point? We got that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about betonline.net. Football is over now. It's been over. We're done with it. It's NBA. It's NBA times now. Everybody, I'm hoping that some of you guys are here listening because you're like, I'm done with the NFL. I'm here for the NBA. We're here for the NBA all year round. For the latest odds, totals, player props, and everything, go to betonline.net. It's the number 1 spot for all your betting needs. You can even look up some lines. They got some future lines. This one was interesting. I found a little bit earlier was the championship odds for the Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference. The odds that the champion will come out of the West versus come out of the East. West was the favorite at minus 145, and the East was the underdog at plus 115. I'm not sure. I think that's just Suns, right? Like that's literally just the Suns getting a little bit of credit here that they're gonna come out of the West. The Warriors a little bit, I think, but they've been kind of reeling lately. But yeah, if you're interested in that and you want daily props and odds and things like that, go check out BetOnline. Head to their website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Big Dave, let's get into the rest of these games in the association. And we're going to do it playing one of our favorite games. We're doing it early today because it's a special episode. So we're going to play one of our favorite games. Count it up, count it up, count it up, count it. Count it up, where we count out the most fun things in the NBA, the fun things that we saw tonight in the association. The Indiana Pacers get a win against the Orlando Magic in actually a fun game for this team. Orlando goes up by 18 points late in the 3rd quarter, but as young teams do, they blew that lead, and in the 4th quarter, they went to overtime, and they lost in overtime. They got outscored in the 4th quarter in overtime, 46-23 by the Indiana Pacers. Malcolm Brogdon, this is his 3rd or 4th game back, and he looked absolutely awesome. He just looked like a different level of player than anybody else on this team. So, count it up. Count it up. The chances now, we've seen Brogdon and Haliburton play together for 3 games now, and they're looking pretty good together.
They are.
They had, Brogdon had 31 points, 11 boards, 8 assists tonight. Tyrese Haliburton had 21 points and 6 assists. We've seen Haliburton have some really, really good games. They're both like bigger guards that can, you can shoot and pass and score on their own and all that kind of stuff. This is a U special. Count it up. Count it up. Chances that this could be a top 5 backcourt in the East. Yes, how crazy is it? Let's start looking at some of the best backcourts in the East. And it has to be 2. It has to be a tandem. And it's not a guard and a wing. It's literally just 2 guards like Malcolm Brogdon and Haliburton are.
Correct. We can start with the boy. I could say Lonzo and Zach LaVine.
Yeah, it's got to be them. It can't be DeRozan, right? It's got to be.
No, it can't be DeRozan. It can't be DeRozan. It's Lonzo and Zach. Philly, like you said, you got James Harden and you got Maxey.
That's the number 1, right? That's the guaranteed number 1 right there.
That's gotta be. I mean, but you can't sleep on either. You can't sleep on Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton.
You count Middleton? I think he's a wing.
Count Middleton. Who's running there too?
I mean, they're starting like Grayson Allen or whoever.
But I've always looked at Middleton as a 2. But okay, if that's not what he's playing this year, then I'll take him out of there. I thought about Cleveland as well, only when Colin Sexton gets back. Thinking about Sexton and Garland.
That one's interesting.
Because that'd be a real interesting one. Both of those are 20-point-a-game scorers right there. But the one that I thought was real interesting was the one you mentioned, which was Brooklyn. Which was Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons.
That one's got to be up there. I mean, just sheer talent. I mean, I don't care what they even look like. That one has to be up there for sure. But then you look the rest of the East. It's like, okay, maybe Marcus Smart and it'd be Derek White now. They've been playing him. Trae Young and Bogdanovich, I guess. I don't think he has another one. It's not crazy that this Indiana Pacers backcourt of Brogdon and Haliburton could be like a top 5 backcourt going into next year.
True. And both of them having those point guard skills, I think, is what really helps. And Brogdon being a guy who's not thought of, honestly, even though he does it every year, he's still not thought of as a real scorer like that. You forget about him doing that, but he can drop 30 on you as he did tonight.
We got to give Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. are up there for sure. That's probably number 3 for me.
Yeah. Trent has been amazing for them, man. He has been absolutely great for them. That 3-point shooting is just ridiculous.
There's not many really good backcourts. It's kind of wild that the East is the Heat is like I guess Lowry and. Do you count Butler?
No, Butler's the forward.
Right.
Duncan Robinson, so Lowry and
Lowry and Duncan Robinson. No, I won't put that one up there. So yeah, it's not pretty crazy. So there you go, Pacers. You got something to look forward to with that backcourt of the future. All right. The Utah Jazz get a win against the Houston Rockets, but it did not come easy for them like they expected. They go into overtime. The Jazz had a 14-point lead with 6 minutes left. And they end up going to overtime, and then Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell take over as you would have expected them to do. Jalen Green also had 16 points in the second quarter. Shout out to him, but Conley had 9 points in overtime. That's what really made it. And we were listening to David Locke. He was talking about how this Jazz team just still struggles when you go small and you can spread it out. And Christian Wood in this game, they didn't need to go too small, but Christian Wood spread it out and hit 4 of his 7 threes. And when you space the floor like that against this Jazz team, it's just hard for them to come up with wins.
Yeah, it is, man. And it's just so weird. It's such a weird basketball team, man. Like everything is a fringe for them. Like they could easily be one of the top 2 teams in the West, and they can easily be one of the bottom 2 teams as far as like playing game and things.
In the playoffs,
yeah, man. So they're such a weird team, man. But I love Donovan Mitchell. Always been a big fan of his. I really want this to work out, but he had a monster game for them, man. And they needed all 37 of those points and all 10 of those assists.
Absolutely. So the Jazz right now are 3 games behind Memphis for number 3, and they're 2.5 games up the Dallas Mavericks, and they play them 2 more times in the next month, ahead of the Dallas Mavericks for 5th. So count it up. Are the Jazz more likely to move up in the standings or down in the standings through the rest of the year?
Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to say they're more likely to move down. And the reason I feel that is because of your Dallas Mavericks and the way that they're playing and the way things have actually clicked for them, and especially how they've clicked for them defensively. Shout out Jason Kidd and what he's done for that team defensively, man. And Spencer Dinwiddie coming in and playing well these last 4 games, like you mentioned also to me when we were off air. So, yeah, man, like I think they'll move down, and it's just because Dallas is looking really, really good.
I'll go the opposite. I'll do the PTI thing and pick the opposite approach.
Sure.
Utah's won 9 of the last 10. I think they're figuring it out. They were really unhealthy and they were having guys in and out of the lineup and all over the place when they were really down bad right now, but they're moving up. I mean, I think they'll probably just stay where they are. That's the most likely scenario, I think. But there's a chance, does Memphis keep this up for the rest of the year? I mean, that's a young team. That's a chance that they could, decide like, all right, let's just coast into the rest of this year. The Warriors are on a downward trend. They're only 4-6 in their last 10. So there's a chance they could even catch them. They're only 3.5 above the Jazz right there. So there's a chance they could fall. This Jazz team they've just done this before, right? They've won in the regular season. They know how to win basketball games, and hopefully they're back in their winning ways for them, and then they can continue to move up. But come playoff time, we know what we're gonna get. But in the regular season, we know we're gonna get some good basketball from them as well.
Yeah, man. But
that's the case. Did I make a good enough case?
It was solid. No, it was very, very solid. I thought it was a very solid case, man. But I just real quick wanted to say shout out to the Grit because Wizards are a half game out of second. in the West, man. They can move right on up there and in there. And John Morant is having an MVP kind of year, man. So yeah, it's been amazing watching them play.
The Mavs play the Golden State Warriors on Thursday night, so it'll be interesting to see if they win that game. Then there's the more likely chance that the Mavs will play the Warriors in that first round series. So do they want to win this game? Is the posturing already starting from some of these teams?
That's a good question.
That would be interesting. So there you go. That's a couple of games we counted up. We got a couple more counted up. Is the Sacramento Kings season over? Why are we not considering the Suns one of the best teams in the NBA? They have the record of one of them. We'll talk about that and more coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about rockauto.com. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models of cars, it's impossible for a store with like literal space and like has to sit in a spot on a street to carry all the parts that your car needs. They just don't have the warehouse space for it. RockAuto.com has that, and they can ship things right to your house. Everything gets shipped to our house right now. My dog food for my dog gets shipped to my house now. Why shouldn't the parts for my car that I want to replace get shipped to my house right where my car is? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. They have reliably low prices for every single customer. They have all that you can need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. They have stuff that you can easily switch yourself. You don't have to be a mechanic or all this kind of stuff. You can find some stuff for your car at rockauto.com. So check it out. rockauto.com. See all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in there. How did you hear about us box? They know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, Big Dave, we got a couple more counted up here, a couple more games, 4 more games to break down. And it's that time of year again.
Okay.
It's that time of year again when the Sacramento Kings lose another game. This is a game they absolutely needed. Matt George, Locked On Kings, said it was probably the biggest game of the season for the Sacramento Kings. They go up against the New Orleans Pelicans, who they are vying for that last play-in spot in the West. The Kings are, we're like, 3.5 games, something like that, back from them. 3 games back. They go into New Orleans and they get ousted by 30 points. The Pelicans scored 125 points against them. The Kings just couldn't hit shots. They shot 22% from 3. It just wasn't a good night for them. Domantas Sabonis was 6 of 16 from the floor. It just didn't have it. And now the Sacramento Kings team loses their 41st game of the year, so that means it's time to call it. This is now like a tradition in the NBA. Josh DeBow from the AP tweeted this out last year, went viral. It's going to do it again this year. Winning seasons in Sacramento with Rick Adelman as coach. 8 seasons in 8 seasons, they had a winning record when Rick Adelman was the coach. That's back with the Vlade Divac and Peja and Doug Christie and Mike Bibby and Chris Webber and all those Kings. That's the golden era of the Kings.
Correct.
When Rick Adelman was coach, they won 8 seasons out of the 8 seasons he was there.
Count it up.
Winning seasons in Sacramento where Rick Adelman was not the coach.
Ooh,
0 for 29. It's the 29th season this year because they lost their 41st game, so they are not going to go above 500 this year. That is insane to me. Their season is technically still not over. They are, what are they now? They're 4 games back from the play-in. But I got to ask you, is the Sacramento Kings season actually over?
No. I'm going to say no. I think they're still fighting for something, man. Because look, I've said this many
selling
times.
Tickets or I
secretly like them. That's my squad. I secretly like the Sacramento Kings. I like the Kongs, man. I dig with them. I rock them. Because De'Aaron Fox, I truly do love and admire De'Aaron Fox, who had 25 again tonight, who has been playing like a dude who I thought he was when they got Sabonis. He has been rejuvenated out there with Sabonis being out there on the floor with him. But, man, I think they're still playing for something. I really do. I think they're still playing for something. They're still out there having an opportunity. Because until you tell me they have 0 chance, so I'm saying it's a chance.
So
all
you're
right?
telling me there's a chance.
Yeah. And plus, I just think you like picking on my man, Matt George, man. You get so much joy out of talking about the losses of the Kings, man. Every time I see you, it's such a joy on your face when I'm talking about the Kings losing, man. What's up with that?
I have no reason to do that. The Kings' next couple of games here are at San Antonio, which is a big game for them because San Antonio is still above them in the standings as well. At the Dallas Mavericks on Saturday, a weird 4 p.m. game. against the Knicks, against the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Bulls, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Suns, then the Pacers. That run right there. Denver, Utah, Chicago, Milwaukee, Boston, Phoenix. Like that run right there is, if the season's not done now, it's ending there. That it's done at that point.
Can't argue that. I really can't. I can't argue that at all, man.
That is a brutal stretch for the Sacramento Kings team, and but they got a bright future going into next year, right? Like they have, I mean, they have a team that they just got to figure out how to play together. If Fox and Sabonis is a good combo, Sabonis has played like an all-star type player when he's been in Sacramento. I saw a lot of like Reddit posts from Kings fans being like, "I didn't know Sabonis was this good." Like, yeah, man. Sabonis is a good player. He's a really good player.
Good. Quite a long time.
Turns out he was good. All right. Next game, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yes, the Oklahoma City Thunder get a win in Denver in Mile High against the Denver Nuggets, 119-107. Our boy Poku gets the start for the Oklahoma City Thunder. No Josh Giddey in this game. There was no Dort in this game. No Ty Jerome. No Kenny Hustle. No Jeremiah Robinson Earl. No Mike Muscat. No Moose. I almost said Moose. Mike Mustaka. That's a baseball player, right?
Muscala. Yes. Muscala, yes.
Mike Muscala. Moose. There's no him in this game. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 29 points, 7 boards, 5 assists. The Nuggets just struggled on offense all over the place. They shot 26% from 3. They took 17 free throws and made 15 of those, but still just couldn't get anything going on offense. Will Barton goes 0 for 9 from 3 in this game. And all of the Nuggets starters were a -22 or a -27 or something in between in the plus minus. They just struggled all over the place. This is just one of those nights for them.
Wow.
But it got me thinking.
Okay.
Jamal Murray's coming back, or at least we're told. Sam Amick of The Athletic reported that he may return sooner than the playoffs or in the playoffs, which is not like a promise, but it's at least something. SGA has a really great game in this one. Jamal Murray may be coming back. Who makes an all-star team first?
Count it up.
SGA or Jamal Murray?
That is an excellent question. I'm going to say Jamal Murray makes it first. And I'll tell you why. Because in that West, man, the amount of point guards that he's going to have to contend with, that SGA is going to have to contend with and beat to get a spot on there is pretty high up. I mean, you got Curry, you got Ja Morant. You know what I'm saying? You still got Chris Paul, even though his time is coming to an end. He's still out there. He's still doing his thing, man. They got us, and of course, you got your guy, Luka Doncic, out there also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got to go through those guys first. And then let's not forget DeJounte Murray, who was a first-time All-Star this year.
Yep.
So you got guys at that position that are tougher. I mean, I know you got Devin Booker, of course. You know what I mean? You got Donovan Mitchell. You got those guys, but Jamal Murray has had seasons kind of on par, you know what I'm saying, with those guys as far as points are concerned. So I think he can be the one that slides in to an all-star game before we see SGA do it.
The problem with SGA is that you got to be on a winning team, right? If Jamal Murray had been playing this year and the Denver Nuggets were number 2, Jamal Murray makes that all-star team spot over DeJounte Murray, right? Like, it just probably happens. That injury replacement is probably Jamal Murray instead of, one of these other guys. But you got to be on a winning team. If you're not, like, you got to be what Trae Young was 2 years ago, 30 points a game, 10 assists. Like, you got to put up gaudy numbers. So I think it's Jamal Murray too. I think next year maybe the Denver Nuggets come in, and that's finally the year we see them be like this juggernaut team that everyone expects them to be with their talent that they have. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a year and a couple months younger than Jamal Murray, so he may have more shots at the apple here. And eventually, OKC is going to go all in with some of these, right? Like, eventually, with some of these picks, like, they're just going to go all in at one point and get
like the Bachelor.
They got all these roses. They just got to figure out. Can you combine Roses and The Bachelor? Like, all right, I'm going to give 2 to you.
I've watched 1 second. I've never watched 1 second.
My co-host Isaac watches it, and I'm not into it.
Oh, man. Never seen it.
All right, the Portland Trailblazers lose against the Phoenix Suns, as many teams have lost against the Phoenix Suns this year. They get their 50th win of the year. This one, again, without Chris Paul. Cam Payne gets the start. Who would have thought a backcourt of Cam Payne and Landry Shamet is on a 50-win team in the NBA? Like, that's going to win 60 games probably and be on this winning team. Cam Johnson, 20 points off the bench for him. Great game for them. No Devin Booker in this game also as well.
Yeah.
So no starting backcourt for the Phoenix Suns. But the Phoenix Suns right now are on pace to win 66 games. That has not happened very often in the NBA. Only 17 teams in NBA history have won 66 games or more. That's not a lot. There's been a ton of teams. I mean, there's been like what thousands of teams that have played in the NBA. Like each year, there's 30 teams. So go all the way back to the 40s with your favorite guys that we were talking about before the start. But why are we not talking about this Phoenix Suns team as one of the all-time teams? Because they're one of those 17 teams right now if they continue this pace that they're on, which by and large they are.
I think it's because guys are kind of looking at their background. And what I mean by that is it's nothing you can really fall back on when you're looking at, the Phoenix Suns. You're not like, well, this team is always in the finals. Well, this team is always that team that you got to contend with in the Western, in the Western Conference Finals to, get there like that. So I think that's kind of what it is. And plus Chris Paul, never been the guy who's ever won a championship. So I think that's why guys are kind of looking at them saying, yeah, well, maybe, Golden State's still there. They can beat you guys, like they're still kind of looking at it that way, but they just keep chugging along and plugging along, man. And they are very, very, very scary. Like the execution, like you said, Campaign and Shamet won by 30. They won by 30, bro.
Landry Shamet's mom did not appreciate the way you said Shamet just then.
I'm sorry.
Shamet.
I love her. Shout out Miss Shamet. I love her.
It sounded like a curse word when you said it.
Shamet! Where's my drink?
Do we know his middle name?
I hope it's God.
Michael. Landry Michael Shamet.
God, Shamet.
He's Sham God's cousin or something.
Oh,
but of those 17 teams that have won 66 games or more in NBA history in a single season, 13 of those made the finals. 4 teams lost in the playoffs. Those 4 teams are, do we have to talk about this? The 2007 Dallas Mavericks lost in the first round. Yeah, the 73 Celtics lost in the second round. The 2016 Spurs with Kawhi Leonard and them lost in the second round. And then the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2009, that LeBron team that went to the finals against the Dwight Howard Magic, they lost in the conference finals. And those are the only teams that didn't go to the finals. And only one team lost the finals, winning 66 games or more. Do you know which team that is?
One team that lost the finals? Yes, I do know which team that is.
Yeah, that is the 2016 Golden State Warriors. And I think the reason why we're not looking at this Suns team is they don't have the one guy. Think about all these teams. Like they have the one guy, the MVP type guy, the Steph Curry, the Michael Jordan, the Larry Bird, the Dirk Nowitzki, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar with the 71 Bucks, the LeBron James obviously with the Heat teams and the Cavs teams, and Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal with the Lakers team that one year. Like they had the one guy, right? I don't think the Suns have this one guy. They're more like that 2016 Spurs team that just had like a bunch of different guys. They don't have the one like all-star, like not all-star, but all NBA MVP level guy.
Yeah, I think the proof to what you're saying is tonight's game. They just don't have that guy. Yeah. They don't have him, but yet and still you go out there and you win by 30 because your execution is that good, because Monty Williams is just an incredible coach. So yeah, I think you're on par with that. But when it comes down to those guys in the clutch and in the fourth quarter, their numbers are astronomically good. Like they really show and prove in that fourth quarter, man. So, and Chris Paul is a dog when it comes to that. So it's gonna be interesting to see what it looks like in the playoffs, because he'll be rested this time.
And I'm not saying that we shouldn't look at this team like this. I think we should. We should look at this team like one of the best teams, because think about some of the best players in the NBA right now. I mean, the Kevin Durant and the Nets are an 8 seed. LeBron and the Lakers are a 9 seed. Luka and the Mavericks are a 5 seed. Giannis is a 4 seed, but he may be up to that top seed there. But like some of the best players in the NBA are not on these dominating teams right now, and so it may not take that type of player to win this season. So this could be the Suns' year. BetOnline thinks it's the Suns' year at this point. They have them the favorite to win the title. But yeah, there we go with the Suns. Last game on the docket. Weird one. Really weird one on this one. We had the Charlotte Hornets getting a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, where LaMelo plays 8 minutes. And both of us looked at this game and we said, LaMelo played 8 minutes?
Yeah.
It was it's not an injury, and it wasn't that he fouled out. It's just that he got in foul trouble early in this game. He had 3 fouls in the first quarter, ended up with 4 fouls, and then the Hornets just had a lead and kept it the rest of the game. And so the Charlotte Hornets get the win. Had a good game from Terry Rozier, 29 points from him. Mm-hmm. Isaiah Thomas makes his debut with the Charlotte Hornets, but count it up. the Cavs right now are a little bit of a slide. The Cavs are they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've lost a couple of their games here. They lose this game tonight. Darius Garland has 33 points, but wasn't enough. The Cavs mostly have their guys. They're just missing, Karis LeVert, Colin Sexton still, obviously. But the Cavs are now only like a couple of games up from the play-in.
Count it up.
What's your confidence meter that the Cavs stay out of the play-in?
Oh, confidence is at 74%.
We didn't give parameters on this. It could have been any number.
Could have been any number. Yeah. Cajillion. Yes. It's so strange because they've been a very surprising team in the East.
Yeah.
If you want to say the most surprised, you can definitely say that if they're the most surprising team.
Beginning of the season, on this network, Locked On NBA, of which I am the channel manager, I put them in the tankers category in our roundtables in preseason. Like tankers, like with the Rockets and the Magic and the Thunder. Like I put them with them, and they didn't, no qualms from them. No qualms from them and from anybody else. And now they were in the top of the East roundtable at the All-Star break. That's insane.
It is. It's very insane, man. And they've just been just ridiculous. But at some point in time, it's going to catch up with you, especially with a young team. A team with that much rookies and they're depending on a team that's depending on my man Lowry. Shout out to the South. but
I love how you have that Lowry sauce. Like he just pulled. If you're listening to the podcast, he just pulled up a Lowry market in hot sauce and just had it within arm's reach. Like
it's always near me, man. Always ready to go. Right next to my neuralizer. Anytime I hear, that foolish coach that used to coach the Bulls name, I'm always ready to go. You know what I'm saying? I'm always prepared. But yeah, man, like just having those rookies that they have in Mobley, and even though Garland's not a rookie, he didn't really play the previous year. But he's playing well, and then the injuries, things just kind of fell their way. But it seems like teams are now prepping for them. Now that you get taken seriously, with your ranking and where you're at in the East, because now it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty on things like that. So I think teams are playing them much more tougher, much more harder, and yeah, it's tough for those young teams to maintain. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying it's a little tougher. So that's why I'm at like 74% that, they might.
Yeah, after the All-Star break is when the season kind of becomes real. Teams really start trying. They start vying. They're seeing, oh, man, we got to make up some ground here a little bit. They also, they've lost a bunch of guys too, right? Like they lose Ricky Rubio. And then they turn Ricky, who was really big for them. They obviously, they turned Ricky Rubio into Karis LeVert, and he's been in and out. He's out now. They obviously lost Colin Sexton earlier in the year, so they're starting to feel some of these losses. I feel like, and they just don't have enough. They just don't have enough guard help at this point to to get them these wins. Darius Garland, he's doing his best here, but we're not playing him 40 minutes a night to try and just keep out of the play-in at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, man. They've been a fun story this year watching them, man. They still have opportunity to remain in that top 6, but it's going to be tough, man. And even with Bickerstaff, getting ejected tonight, you know what I mean? Like you could tell it's kind of wearing on them like that, man. But
yeah, I got to do something. I got to inspire these guys to do something.
Exactly, man. We got to get something out of these guys. He's like, dude, LaMelo's played 8 minutes. Like, what are we doing? He's going crazy, but yeah, man, it's going to be interesting because I don't know who that guy is going to be on that team for them to step up and to help carry it with Garland. But they're going to need another guy who can put up 30 for them, man. They're going to need another guy like that.
They're going to need another guy. Big Dave, this is Big Dave's last Locked On NBA. Appreciate the fun times we've had over the last couple of weeks here. On to bigger and better things. And so you'll hear more about that on Locked On Bulls if you want to go check out that and the new host on there. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We will be back tomorrow with Wes and Adam breaking down the games. Now make Locked On Mavs and Bulls your second listen. Go listen to Locked On Bulls. They got some interesting stuff. Got a cool guest today. Locked On Mavs will be breaking down the Warriors game tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA.